Hi, and welcome back to Meet Your Body. Today, we are talking about how to nourish and support your nervous system and why that is truly so vital to your overall health. So, before we jump into all of that, I want to let you know actually about a free 1 week program I'm doing that starts Monday, November 3rd, 2025. So, if you're listening to this in real time, we start in just a few days. And this is a 1 week free program that's offering you emails, some videos, and some actionable tips on how to actually support your own nervous system. I am calling it Nourish. And these are tips that you can start doing right away. Simple things that you can start that will help you nourish your nervous system. I can't think of a more important time and a more important thing that we all could use right now. So I will have the link to sign up for that below. So let's talk about why it is so important to really nourish your nervous system. So I'm going to go back to my own experience first. And many of you know it because I've talked about it openly here. And I have previous podcast episodes all about my own chronic stress situation, my people pleasing tendencies, and all of those. So I'll have some of those links below as well. But I would say, so myself, my personality lends itself to kind of that chronic stress place. I am the quintessential eldest daughter. I was that one in school that always strived to get the high grades, to do all the things. I wanted to get into grad school as soon as I could. I knew I wanted to be a physical therapist. There are so many benefits to those personality traits. So I definitely don't say it as a detriment. I now understand looking back that those kind of tendencies can definitely set someone up for chronic stress and burnout. But again, there are a lot of great things to being that type of person. I thrive on to-do lists. I definitely was in that hustle like mentality place. I volunteered for all of the things. You know it. You're probably one of those people yourself. So I had kind of my management techniques to deal with it, which to be honest, weren't very extensive because I felt like I could just handle it. I could just do all the things and get less sleep if I needed to, right? Like I had my way of living that kind of life. And it's the kind of life that's rewarded. And you know that if you are that person, we are the ones who will get maybe the higher grades or get into the colleges or the schools we want to. We're the ones who are asked to be on the committees and asked to volunteer. We strive for that. And that was me. Like I was rewarded in this hustle culture society that we have. I was rewarded for that behavior, for not sleeping, for working harder, working out harder, doing all the things, learning all the things, getting all the certificates, all of it. And I understood the need to take care of myself. And I did very much so. But to me, it looked a lot like doing all the right workouts, eating all the right foods, those kind of things. It didn't really look like any type of rest, right? That's what I was not good at, which I really am still not great at it. But that's what I wasn't good at. And I didn't quite see the value in rest. Even when I would sit down and what I thought was resting was usually planning my next day or reading a book about a course I was on, anything like that. So it was rest that I wasn't very good at. I always had a purpose to kind of what I did. And then around 2019, and I won't go into all the details because, again, I have in the past, but 2019 was a really big, very hard year for my husband and I and our family. We had a death in the family. We took over care for my mother-in-law who had Alzheimer's. I had my hysterectomy that year. We had started a new retreat business, which was going wonderfully and we loved, but it took a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of learning. And all of this happened in a short amount of time. And I realized at the end of that year that I really had gotten to a place of being in chronic fight or flight. And my husband and I looked at each other and kind of laughed one day and said, well, 2020 can't be harder than that. Q 2020. The world shut down. COVID happened. We had two very young kids, one in preschool who suddenly was home, and one in elementary school who we were trying to do, virtual school, all the things. We were worried about our businesses. We were worried about our family. And I truly went into a place I hadn't been before when it comes to my nervous system and stress. And again, for a while, that was very adequate for what was happening. I mean, all of us, and again, I know you understand, we jumped into a place of survival. I mean, putting out all the fires. What did we have to do to keep our kids safe, to keep them happy at home? What did we have to do to keep our businesses afloat, to keep our family going? Financially, mentally, physically. So we jumped right into that. So it was about a year later, like I would say probably beginning of 2021, when I really noticed that my health had taken a big sharp turn, like starting to lose hair, starting to really not be able to sleep. And it made me a little worried, I will say, okay, there's something a little extra going on. But I think the final straw that made me realize I was in a bad place with my nervous system was, I remember very clearly, I was on the exercise bike. Again, right? Checking off what I'm supposed to be doing for my health. I was on the exercise bike, and I just thought about needing to check my emails after that. And I got the biggest pain in my stomach, the biggest pit in my stomach, the biggest sense of anxiety just from the thought of checking my emails. And I thought, oh, okay, the email's not going to come out and attack me. I'm not under physical danger. My family's not in physical danger, but I am so scared and heightened of opening this email. My reaction absolutely does not match the stressor. I am absolutely in chronic fight or flight right now. And that was a real turning point for me, realizing that like I said, my health was in a downward spiral because of that. And I knew I needed to pull myself out of it. And I knew it had to be my number one priority. And so it became very purposeful and very intentional in my life on how to make that happen. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it took, 6 months of intentional work. And I feel like I pulled myself out of that. And it really was a wake-up call to me also on how this needs to be a lifelong thing of making sure I'm taking care of my nervous system. And then perimenopause hit right around that time. My anxiety, while not in that chronic fight or flight state anymore, but definitely that low-level anxiety kind of kicked up a little bit. And it became even more important to me to daily think about how to take care of my nervous system. And I started to go through some courses and certificates myself. And I kept hearing the word nourishing your nervous system. And that really resonated with me. And if you have followed me and listened to this podcast or YouTube videos for the last year, you've heard me use that word. And that is even what I'm calling this free program we're doing next week, November 3rd. I'm calling it Nourish because that really helped me kind of visualize and understand what taking care of my nervous system is. It is nourishing. I am looking to nourish my nervous system, my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit. Like, what does that truly look like? And when I look back to my patterns, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that's the piece that was missing, right? Like I was checking all the boxes, doing all the things, and I was happy and I was really fine. I was fine until I wasn't. I was fine until those strategies didn't work in a new season of life, of that sudden change in our family, of perimenopause hitting, of COVID happening, all of those things threw that. Like those strategies I had always used, it threw those kind of out the window. And I realized I need some new strategies now. And it can't just be the checking the boxes. It needs to be truly this idea of nourishing my nervous system in all ways. And so that is kind of what I want to talk to you about and where we're coming from with this. And I'm going to talk to you scientifically about why actually this is so important and what happens in our bodies. But I want you to change that mindset and that frame it a little bit differently for yourself. That idea of not just checking a box, not just adding it to your to-do list, not just, okay, I did my 5 minutes of self-care for the day. I'm on for the day. Like I'm done, I'm good. That again might serve you in short-term times. We play the long game here. We are looking long-term at ways we can create the foundation for physical, mental, spiritual health, all of it. And I am here to tell you that we truly cannot out exercise, out diet, out supplement, out smart, out strategize, out meditate a depleted nervous system. And what I mean by that is you can exercise and do all the things everyone says, even what I say. You can do all the weightlifting, all the walks, all the things. But if your nervous system is depleted, it can actually end up sabotaging you. Same with your diet. You can follow all the rules that everyone says. But if your nervous system is still in a depleted state, you might end up, for example, gaining the weight that you don't understand why you are because you're doing all the right things on the other side of the spectrum. Supplements, meditation, all of those things the same. If you're just doing it to check the box, doing it for kind of that self-care idea, but moving on and keeping all your other habits the same, and your nervous system is depleted, then it will end up holding you back. It will sabotage you. And so that is why it's so important. It is the bedrock of everything else we do. And it becomes even more important as we get older. And I think that's what I've really realized is as our hormones and our bodies change, I mean, they truly do. And we're going to talk about that and why that's so important. But as they change, this becomes even more important. And I just want to touch on this because I'm not sure if you're like me, but I sometimes have a hard time with this idea of like self-care because I think, you know what, I need to serve everybody else. Like I don't have the privilege of that, of self-care, because I am in this place where I need to give back to so many other people. Like it feels selfish almost. That idea of having that self-care box, it can feel that way. It can feel very selfish, I'm sorry. And again, I want to just reiterate, and I want to keep putting this in your mind, that you truly cannot find your optimization of health that you might be looking for. Find your longevity, find your vitality. You can't ultimately serve others if you are not lifting yourself up as well. And that is where this nourishment comes in. And that helped me as well to, again, kind of put that spin on it of, okay, I can put this into place in all aspects of my life and all the things that I'm doing. I can use that thought of how am I making this nourishing versus depleting? And then I will still have time for that essential and important piece to me of giving back to others. So make sure that you're kind of remembering that a part of our health really is community. And community includes you as well. You need to take care of yourself so that you can also be there for other people. So let's talk about something, and we're going to kind of switch to that scientific place here so that you understand actually physiologically what is happening. So we have something, are you ready for the big words? We have something called the HPA axis. That stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. All right. Your hypothalamus up in your brain, your pituitary up in your brain, and your adrenals, which are actually down around your kidneys. And they have a communication and an axis between them all. And it's a very complex endocrine system, and it plays a crucial role in regulating your body's response to stress. Okay. And I will not get into all of the hormones that are controlled here and how they're relayed and released and all of that. But it's a very complex system that involves many hormones. And what happens is when there is a stressor in your life, it could be a physical stressor, it could be an emotional stressor, anything that is a stressor for you. And I want you to keep in mind, stressors can be good things as well. If you have ever planned a wedding, you know, like This is a great, exciting, fun thing. And also, oh my goodness, it is stressful, right? So just use that as an example. It can be good things as well, but anything that causes that stress in your life. When there's a stressor, it will set off a cascade effect of hormone release through these structures we just mentioned. So it helps us to adapt properly to the stressful situations in our lives, and it brings us back to homeostasis. So all you need to know is that when there is a stressor, which do happen, stressors happen, and I want to say that as well, it just means you're a human being if you experience stress. That's what that means. All humans experience stress in some way, shape, or form. So we can't expect to completely remove stress from our life, and we don't expect that. What we do expect, what we do want, is that when a stressor happens, our HPA access and our system acts as it should to release cortisol, our hormone, which then gets processed in our body because the stress moves out of our body and we come back to homeostasis. So there's two pieces that happen when we have a stressor. We need to react to the stressor. Our body releases all the hormones needed to react properly to that stressor. And then the second piece is it brings us back to regulation, back to homeostasis. All right. And so we use this example a lot, but I think it can be helpful. Think back, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, even 1,000 years ago. Stressors for people were things such as, oh, I need to collect food, right? I need to go collect food, those kind of things. Let's say a stressor happens. Let's say a bear comes. Okay, that is a stressor. Your body reacts accordingly. It's fight or flight. You're going to fight or you're going to flight. It reacts accordingly to get you out of that stressful situation. It saves your life. It is meant to. Okay, it gets you out of that stressful situation. Then, once you're safe, it brings you back to homeostasis. And that can be the same now. Maybe we don't have a bear, but just imagine something like you are suddenly given a project for work, okay? And you are told this is due in 2 days. And you are meant to do this. Like you are trained to do this. You have been preparing for this. But still, it's going to cause some stress. It is public speaking. You might have a lot riding on it. Okay, so your body reacts accordingly. Some hormones are released. You go into action. You maybe lose a little sleep for the next 2 days. You put your goals into place. You make your PowerPoint. You give that presentation and you kick butt and it's awesome. And your body did exactly what needed to be done for those 2 days for a specific stressor. And then you come back to homeostasis. All right, that's the way we're supposed to work. Now, what tends to happen in our day and age now with 24-hour news cycle, with social media, with us being connected, sometimes in a beautiful way even, to people all around the world, all of those things can cause us to get into a place of heightened stress. And it becomes chronic, meaning we don't get out of it. We don't come back to homeostasis ever. We kind of have this new baseline of reactivity of a very heightened, dysregulated nervous system. So not only is it heightened all the time, but also, like I said about that email, we have this rush of cortisol in situations that we really shouldn't. Okay, so it's dysregulated in all ways. And this can be affected by many different things, but a few things can include any kind of chronic or long-term stress, like I just mentioned, but they can come from many things. If you have trauma in your past that hasn't been dealt with, if you have chronic pain, if you have relationships in your life that continue to be difficult for you, if you have a job you hope to get out of, if you have socioeconomic issues that are a constant stress for you, all of those things can cause that chronic long-term stress to happen. Some diseases are actually associated with it, including hypermobility. There's a really interesting connection between hypermobility and having that more heightened kind of chronic stress or heightened and dysregulated nervous system. And then decreased estrogen. All right. And this is where I'm tapping on kind of that perimenopause and menopausal transition piece. It is very, very normal to have increased anxiety and increased stress during that time of life. And it is because of decreased estrogen. So estrogen really helps to supplement our HPA axis, that whole system. Estrogen helps us come back to that place of homeostasis. So with decreased estrogen, that doesn't happen as much. And all of this to say, and there's so many other places, right? You might be thinking, oh, Jessica, I'm in chronic stress because of this, because of this. Yes, I am validating all of it. I am validating anything in your life that has caused you to be at a place of chronic stress. All right. And then has made you feel like you can't come back to baseline. And then I'm also acknowledging that there are some true physiological reasons that that doesn't happen as well, right? Including, like I said, certain diseases, certain situations, decreased estrogen, all of those kind of things. So that being said, it is not always as simple as removing the stress from your life, right? And if anyone tells you that, I just want to say it's not true. There are some things absolutely that we need to have self-awareness around and we need to work to remove from our lives. This is true. Like, this is absolute truth. We need to take some agency and take some ownership over what we are allowing in our life. Like, energetically, whether it's people we're allowing into our life, whether it's messages from social media, certain accounts that we follow, whether it's books we read or things we watch on TV, relationships that we have. I mean, there are so many things. For me, it can be just thoughts. I will have ruminating thoughts about a situation that hasn't happened in the future and hasn't happened, but I will sit and have pretend conversations about this pretend situation that may or may not happen in the future, like, so that I'm prepared for it. But all I do is put myself into such a stressful place about something that might not ever happen. That is my issue. I'm very forward thinking. So I will have these pretend, like I said, pretend conversations with people that never end up happening. And I've gotten myself stressed out about something that's just not even real. You might be the opposite. You might have like ruminating thoughts about a conversation you had a week ago that you go back and forth, around and around about how you wish you would have, expressed yourself differently, had a different retort to that thing they said. We all can get ourselves into these mindset places. And so again, I am saying, because I am absolutely that person too, I have to take ownership over that. Like, that is something I need to work on. It is not helping my stress. It doesn't help my mind frame. It doesn't help my mental health whatsoever. So yes, there are things that we need to be accountable for and have self-awareness around. Also, I absolutely know it's not as easy as saying, just remove that from your life. It might be a person as close to you as a partner or a child, a spouse, a parent, who can be the source of a stressful, hard relationship. I know you can't always just remove that. And I'm not even saying that's the recommendation, but I know that, and I want to acknowledge it. It might be a job that you feel like, I can't leave this job. It's supporting my family, but it's causing me a lot of stress, right? It might just be that stress will come because that's what life is. Stress will come. What I'm saying is we need to find ways, and it might be in other ways. Maybe you can't change your job, but can you still nourish and support your nervous system in all other ways so that when the stress comes, you can deal with it in a more proper and healthy way, and you can come back to homeostasis, that you can come back to that place of a regulated nervous system. So I think it's really important to understand that. We are not saying that we necessarily can remove all the stress from our life, and I'm not even saying that we should. I am saying that we need to recognize that we have a role to play in nourishing our nervous system, keeping it healthy and regulated, and helping it then come back to homeostasis, to come back to a regulated place after the stress occurs. So here are some things that you can do, and we will talk about this more. I'm going to give you like really, again, actionable steps, even a checklist. If you're like me and you like a checklist, I'll be giving you a checklist in my free 7-day program we do next week. But also, here are some things that you can just start to consider, all right, when it comes to your own life and nourishing that nervous system. So one is deep breathing. And you might be like me. And a few years ago, I would just roll my eyes every time I heard that. Yes, of course I breathe. I'm human. I'm here. Of course I'm breathing. And I will tell you automatically, and again, you might know my medical history and medical trauma that I have that started when I was 8 years old. So it's deep seated in me. And automatically, every time I go, before I take a medical test, before I have blood drawn, I kind of stare off into space and I take deep breaths. It is automatic. And I realized that is my nervous system coming back to itself. That is me self-regulating. Deep breathing has some of the most vast research around it when it comes to the proof and how we know it is like one of the quickest ways to get your nervous system to a regulated place. And there are many different ways to breathe. So I don't want you to worry about that. I don't want you to look up the very best way unless that feels calming to you. But don't add more stress to your life of trying to find always the best way to do things or the only way to do things. Just take deep breaths. Taking 5 deep breaths before you answer an email, before you answer a text, before you answer a question, before you jump into an argument, before you post a social media comment, before you walk into a tough appointment, before you walk into a tough Zoom meeting, in the middle of a Zoom meeting if you need to. No one will know half the time you're doing it. Taking those 5 deep breaths truly will feel like magic and is one of the most accessible ways, because we can all do it, one of the most accessible ways to immediately calm and regulate your nervous system. I do inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. That's what works for me most of the time. And then sometimes I find myself just inhaling through my nose, exhaling through my nose. And again, I don't think of either as right or wrong because I'm taking deep breaths. I'm coming back to myself. I am pausing and I'm finding myself in the present moment. So deep breathing, do not pass by the importance of that. The next is something called vagus nerve massage. And instead of getting into it here, I'm going to put a link below. I have a really simple tutorial on how to do vagus nerve massage. This also is accessible to all of us at any time. Just takes 3 to 5 minutes. You can do it on a plane, in your office, in the car when you're stopped at a car. You can do it on a walk. I do it in front of my red light. Again, anytime. And it involves your vagus nerve, which is the largest cranial nerve of the body, and has a really important role when it comes to regulating the nervous system. And you'll just find it in your neck, and it's really simple, basic neck massage you can do. So I'm going to have that link below because that's really powerful. The next is dietary changes. And instead of talking to you exactly about what you should eat, which yes, there are anti-inflammatory foods, and we will touch on it, but I want to talk to you about the more important piece to this when it comes to nourishing your nervous system. Think of foods that really do kind of nourish you or lift you up. Like just have intention around that. So that might mean cutting down things like sugar. That might mean lifting things up, like really colorful, bright foods. It might mean a variety of things, but I want you to just be kind of intentional about that. But in addition to what you're actually choosing to eat, I want you to think about how food fits into your lifestyle. When are you eating? How are you eating? Is it really quick on the go? Is it always in the car? Is it always at your desk? Or are you taking time to have a meal? Are you taking time to sit down, either by yourself and intentionally eat your food, or with people you love and having big laughs? Like truly, there will be a difference if you're in an office. There is a difference between sitting by yourself and eating in front of the computer and sitting at a table with your coworkers having laughs about the day. And I'm actually not saying either is better than the other because it's going to be different depending on who you are and your personality and your needs that day. But think of it, instead of thinking of, oh, I have so much to do for work, I just have to go to my desk. Think instead, what's going to nourish me in this moment? Actually with my lunch. Like, what is going to nourish me? Is it sitting with my coworkers and just laughing and having a break from the day? Is it actually sitting at my desk and, possibly getting that process done or that project done because then I can leave work early to get home, to have a few extra minutes to go for a walk in the sun, like only you know, but reframe it that way. Like how are you eating? Are you eating a full breakfast in the morning, or do you skip breakfast and only have coffee and go straight to lunch? Like that is a huge one that all of us need to work on. A big nourishing breakfast. And I don't even mean like a huge brunch with lots of food. I just mean, is it nourishing you? Is it colorful? Is it more than just a bar on the go? Is there something you can do to make your meals look like we eat with our eyes first? Can you add more color? Can you add microgreens? Those kind of things. Can you make your meals more nourishing? And that can have a really big, actually, effect on your nervous system. And a piece of that I want to comment on is alcohol. Just again, looking at your habits around that. Are they nourishing? Are they depleting? So instead of even thinking of, oh gosh, is that single glass of wine I'm having every night good for me or not? Think about it this way. Are you having that glass of wine because you are so stressed, you're so depleted that you are just looking for something to kind of tamp down that emotion, or you're just doing it because you're like, give me that wine, I'm so stressed, I need a glass? Is that the mindset you're coming from? Or are you coming from the mindset of, oh my gosh, I am going out with some of my favorite people tonight, and I really am excited to have a glass of wine with them and have some laughs? Or again, it's okay if you're by yourself. I am going home for the night. I am nourishing myself. I'm going to make myself this beautiful meal that I love. And I love this glass of wine, and I'm going to have that, and I'm going to sit and enjoy it and read my favorite book. And I hope you can kind of hear and even feel in your body the difference in those two things. And this was a real eye opener for me too, the first time I heard it and framed it that way. Because I'm always looking for the science and the research. Is alcohol good for you or not? Is it good? Like, is this good for me or not? Just yes or no. There's nuance to it. There just is. And we need to approach things with that nuance. And for me, it was really helpful around food and around alcohol to say, how am I approaching this? Like, why am I going for this? And is it from a nourishing place that's actually going to bring me up and really feel like that cozy blanket of nourishment? Or is it going to actually, am I coming at this from a place of depletion? And is it going to maybe deplete me a little bit more? Those are the questions to kind of ask. Another thing that can help is movement, right? We're never going to have any conversation around here probably without addressing how movement may or could help. Absolutely, we know movement, exercise helps support our nervous system. That is not a question. We know it. The only thing to ask yourself is, again, it's kind of that place of nourishment. If you have a very heightened nervous system already, okay, if you're in chronic burnout, chronic fight or flight, chronic reactivity, like I was during that time, if you're at that place, then a lot of high cardio, high stress, high jumping kind of high intensity workouts aren't the best place for your nervous system. You might want to look at getting back to long walks, your weightlifting, Pilates, balance, those kind of things, so that you can help get your nervous system back to a place of regulation. Then you can add those other workouts back in. So you really need to look at kind of the types of workouts you're doing and where your nervous system already is. And that might be a nice place, because you can get to a place where certain workouts can actually continually deplete you. And I know that personally. And it tends to be when we're already in that go, 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 hustle, burnout place. And we just add more and more workouts in that mindset, right? Those high calorie, high calorie burn, high intensity workouts, we just want more on an already depleted system. It can actually deplete us a little bit more. So you just need to ask yourself where you're at and use your workouts to lift yourself up. Again, use your workouts to nourish your system. Another one is actually blue light. And we're going to talk about this in our program next week. But blue light can, and by blue light, I mean before bed. I'm sorry, I should reiterate. I mean screens before bed. I'm just going to get real brass tacks here. I mean, are you looking at screens right up until you go to bed? That is what we're talking about. Phones, computers, TVs. And I'm not even going to talk about what you might be looking at, But blue light alone, right before bed, in that hour or two before bed, blue light alone, which is looking at your screen, will very much dysregulate your circadian rhythm, which will mess up your sleep, which will mess up your nervous system. So that's just one thing to ask yourself. And then in addition to that is, what are you looking at? For me personally, I have a hard and fast rule, and I put it into place in 2021 when I started working intentionally on my nervous system. I do not look at anything on my phone after dinner. So that's what, 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours before bed. I don't look at news. I don't look at social media. I don't look at my emails. I don't look at any of that because I can't respond in the moment, right? I could, but nothing good comes from me responding in the moment. I can wait to the morning. So for me, there's nothing that's an emergency in that situation, but I might feel like I need to respond. And all it tends to do is heighten my nervous system. So I don't. I will use my phone for a Kindle to read books. And even that I need to work on because I like to read my book up until bed. And that isn't good because it's still blue light. So I'm working on actually going to just real books and not my Kindle before bed. But those are the things to ask yourself. Ask yourself, can I at least decrease the screen? Can you start like a half hour before bed? Turn the screens off. And then things like social media, emails, things that really get you riled up, shut them down for a few hours before bed. And then really my last point is social media as a whole and news. Only you know what it does to you. Only you know what your algorithm feeds you. Only you know how often you're there. But that's a really good one to look at. Like first, maybe you unfollow accounts that aren't nourishing to you. Maybe you limit the amount of time you're on them. Again, it's just something to audit. Like just do a little self-audit on that because that's a big one in this day and age. So all of those things we just talked about, I think they just feel extraneous sometimes. Like I'm doing everything else for my health. I don't have time for that. And my summary for you right now is that those can't be just nice extras if you happen to get to them. Those things, regulating your nervous system, getting yourself back to a place of homeostasis with your nervous system and your stress levels, they have to be paramount. They are the only way that all the other things like your exercise and your food choices and your sleep and even HRT, all of those things will work only on top of a regulated and supported nervous system. It has to be a priority. And so hopefully those tips help you. Hopefully it helps, again, shift your mindset a little bit. Think about how can you nourish your nervous system? How can you make things feel a little more like that cozy blanket, that warm cup of tea, your favorite book? How can you make the moment you're in, the present moment, feel a little bit more like that? So again, I will have the link below if you want to sign up for that 1 week free program we have. It starts November 3rd. If you miss it, no problem. Put these tips into place that we mentioned today, that we discussed, starting now. And I promise it will help your overall health and help your stress levels. All right, I'll talk to you soon.